Hey, how's it going, art nerds? And welcome to another video by me, DD Mark. It's been a while since I sort of did a more serious tone video, and the reason I'm doing it now is because I've been swamped with finals because I'm in college, and yeah, being my usual goofy self in my videos, it's a lot harder to edit, and it takes longer, so I don't really feel like doing all that. But enough with the chitty chat. Let's get into what I want to talk about today. Today, I want to talk about my 6 tips or tricks to improve your drawing speed. So before getting into this, let me say or preface this. Drawing speed isn't really something you can work on. Well, what I mean is you can't hold a timer and actively try to move your hand faster or some goofy stupid shit like that. Speed in drawing is something that comes as a result of knowledge. As a result of knowledge of the fundamentals or knowledge in general. Now, you can't move your hand across the page like Flash to draw faster, whatever. However, I do have tips and tricks that I personally use to help me with my speed. If you watch my streams, you know I'm really fast at drawing, especially comic books, so I'll be talking about my process, and in the background as I speak, you'll be watching me redraw this double spread page from chapter 44 of the manga JUJUTSU Kaisen. If you stick around a bit, I'll tell you how long it took me to finish it. Okay, so tip number 1, don't zoom in and don't chase perfection. I know this is a thing that a lot of artists, professional or not, and to be honest myself, even struggle with, and as you'll see in this time lapse, I zoom in a lot. So I know I'm not perfect, but basically zooming in and chasing perfection go hand in hand in terms of zooming in on details that aren't necessary. This will cause you to waste time on things that people won't even see in the zoomed out version, or even yourself won't even see. So automatically not zooming in is a time saver, as you find yourself not stressing as much about details as you normally would if you did. That being said, even when zoomed out, you can still catch yourself spending a little too much time rendering or getting the right line weight or whatever. Don't. I always tell myself, especially when I make manga, nobody cares and nobody's gonna notice these details. And you see the evidence of this mindset in my backgrounds here and in all my previous work that I draw. I draw backgrounds knowing damn well no one's gonna look at it for more than a second. Tip number 2, I use one sketch layer. And if you want to improve speed, I recommend you try it as well. Essentially, this tip can also be called, cut corners. Most artists I know or see use at least 2 layers of sketch, and a good majority also use 3. One to position the characters in the space or for composition, another for the simple construction of the poses and proportion and stuff, and the last sketch for details like clothes, hair, facial features, blah blah blah. I use one sketch layer, always and all the time. So I'm not necessarily saying do what I do and use one sketch layer. I'm just saying think about your process and think of ways you can cut corners to increase your speed without sacrificing a large level of quality, if that makes sense. Tip number 3, think in layers. Think about the end result of the piece and from the very first stroke, make decisions with the end goal in mind. This type of thinking allows you to cut corners and increase your speed. So for the piece that I'm drawing that you're currently watching, from the starting sketches, I already have a very super clear image of what the finished work will look like in my head. So I make my way to that finished work that I have in mind. For example, I know there are 3 main thingies or objects in this drawing: the 2 characters, the building, and the tree. So when I'm inking, I ink each of these figures or things or whatever in separate layers. This allows me to have an easier time when I'm toning. This allows me to have an easier time during my toning process. So yeah, during the early inking phases, I'm already thinking about the final toning phase. This is how I want you all to think in layers. Also, when I'm inking, I don't spend time hatching a lot to show the form or to show shadows, because I know the tones at the end will do all that for me. But yeah, that's it. Thinking layers. Tip number 4, analyze your work to identify what you're doo-doo at. Because as you can imagine, that's what slows you down. Like I said earlier, speed is as a result of knowledge. So when you're tackling something you're not knowledgeable about, you're gonna spend more time on it. For example, I personally struggle with, and don't worry, I'm working on it, I struggle with 3-point perspective. Yeah, I struggle with that. So as you see in this time lapse, or as you've seen already, I don't know if we've got there or past it at this point. I'm just recording my voice, I'm not watching it, it's just voice recording. Anyways, I'm getting distracted. In this time lapse, you clearly see me struggling with the perspective of the buildings. And to be honest, when I tell you how long this piece took, it shouldn't have taken me nearly as long because I was breezing through everything else in this except for the perspective. That took me way too long. But yeah, long story short, make time to improve at what you suck at. Tip number 5, take breaks. Yeah, I know this is a weird one in a video for increasing speed and therefore productivity, but like drawing longer without breaks doesn't mean you're getting more work done. After the first few hours of drawing, your productivity drops like a bitch and you be way more sluggish and slow and stuff. So like, yeah, take 10, 20, 30 or an hour break. Walk around the room, do arm exercises, I don't know, go feed your TV or watch your cat and take breaks. Yeah, breaks, they're nice, super underrated. And finally, tip number 6, know your tools. Personally, I attribute my speed at drawing to my knowledge of the Clip Studio software. I genuinely know the Clip Studio software more than I know a lot of my own blood cousins. I know the tricks, the tools, the features, and all the knickknacks Clip Studio is capable of and stuff like that. For example, if I drew a character and their head was a little too big, instead of like erasing and redrawing the head, I can just use the lasso tool to decrease it and save myself 5 minutes of redraw. I can't think of all the shortcuts Clip Studio allows me to do, but like in this time lapse, you can see me doing a lot of things you probably don't understand or you do, but the point is I'm cutting corners by using tools and features made available to me by the Clip Studio drawing software. But yeah, go crazy. And yeah, those are my tips. That being said though, I want to say drawing fast is not an essential skill, like if you're not a pro basically. And even still, if you are a pro and you don't have a deadline, then it's still not a necessary skill to have. I personally think it's better to take your time to ensure your work comes out as best as possible. I would also say you should know your goal and know what you want out of drawing. Is it a hobby? Do you want it to be a career? Do you want to be a comic artist, a self-published comic artist with a publisher, blah, blah, blah. All these things will dictate whether or not you need speed. The only reason I'm personally trying to increase my speed as much as I can is because of my goal, which is to become one of the best. Interpret being the best however you please, but essentially for me, in my head, to be the best, speed is something I not only want, but need in my arsenal. But yeah, by the way, that drawing took me 2 hours. If not for the perspective, I think it would have taken me like an hour or an hour and 20 minutes. But yeah, 2 hours is how long it took me. Anyways, my Diddy Dank bros and dank art nerds, thank you for attending my TED Talk. Make sure to like and subscribe and kiss your mothers. And don't forget to leave a comment because I respond to any and all comments. Diddy deuces, Diddy douchebags.